Hello, my name is James, and welcome to the Office of Demonology. I am going to talk about the books I finished in February. All right, first up, Horns by Joe Hill. I love Joe Hill's work. I never read Horns. I don't know why it took me this long to pick this up. I was at a thrift store. This was on the shelf. I was like, okay, I'll pick it up. What do I think about it? I loved it. He managed to really create relationships between the main character's friends, and the girl, and I don't want to spoil anything. I was surprised at some of the twists, and I was very happy, but it was very emotional too. I don't usually get too emotional, but this book actually made me feel sad. As you'll see, this is the movie cover, and a lot of times if there is a movie to the book, I will watch it immediately after I finish reading the book. I did not enjoy the movie. It was something I don't think they could get across were those relationships in the amount of time they had. Visually, the movie was great. I mean, it looked cool, the stuff they did, but I never felt connected to the main character or his friends or the girl. I didn't believe it. So I would highly suggest reading this book, but I don't know if I'd tell you to go watch the movie. Next up, Han Solo at Star's End. I found the entire trilogy. This is the Han Solo Adventures trilogy, and it came out, this one, in 1979. That's the copyright here. I was a young lad when this came out. I had these when I was a kid. I don't remember them, so I decided to pick them up at the thrift store. It was slow for me to get into it. Once I got into it, I thought it was a very fun adventure that they could make into an animated series if they wanted to with Han Solo. I liked the idea of Han Solo having these adventures that we could see prior to A New Hope. It has nothing to do with the Empire. It's another organization called the Authority, I think, something like that, who is the bad guys in this, and they end up kidnapping Chewbacca. He has to rescue Chewbacca, and then there are two more books in the series that I'm sure I'm going to get to and talk about. The next one's Han Solo's Revenge. So, great cover art, by the way. This is by Brian Daly, is the novel. He does all three of these. Great, fun, retro Star Wars adventures. This book is called If You Want to Write by Brenda Ullin, originally from 1928, I believe. And it's an old book on writing. I think she has a lot of great things to say about, 1938, I'm sorry. A lot of great things to say about creativity. And I would suggest picking this up if you can find it and reading it. Now this is an updated version. I believe it was originally 1938, and then this was 1987 when it was republished. This is more about writing, literary writing, not so much, pop writing or trying to do genre fiction. It will help, but it's a book about art, independence, and spirit. She really gets into finding the truth in your sentences, finding the truth in yourself, and bringing that truth out into your sentences. The part I get issue with is the spirit part, although I do think there's some creativity, has some kind of mystery to it. I don't like to label it, but she has something like here it says, "But they should remember that Christ said that we should cast off anxiety so that we could seek first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, i.e., live creatively, greatly, seekingly in the present. And all these things, beauty, happiness, goodness, talent, food, and clothing, will be added unto you." Of course he is right. So she's very Jesus preachy in this. Not a lot, but it's there. And this seeking the kingdom of heaven has nothing to do with what we're talking about when it comes to creativity. I hate when people do that, when they try to push their agenda into creativity. No, leave it at being mysterious. I do agree with live creatively, greatly, seeking in the present. Absolutely. But don't throw Jesus into it. There's no reason. It doesn't make sense to me. Enjoyed this book. A little bit of the spirituality got on my nerves, but check it out if you find it. Next up, Grady Hendrix and How to Sell a Haunted House. This I listened to on Audible and really enjoyed the hell out of this. This was all about puppets coming to life and a history of a family and finding out that history. I was surprised where the stuff was coming from, why these things were coming alive. And when it's revealed, it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. And Grady knocks it out of the park with this one. And if you want to, I have an interview with Grady Hendrix on the Writing Fiction podcast. If you want to check that out, I'll put it in the description below. The interview was during the release of How to Sell a Haunted House, and we get really into his creativity in putting this book together. But I thought it was a very fun adventure between Louise and Mark and the house that their parents, where they grew up, and the history between the brother and sister, the history from their parents, and all these weird puppets that the mom had in the house, and squirrels coming to life. I mean, it was wild. Check out How to Sell a Haunted House. Next up, Memory Man by David Baldacci. I think that's how you say it. Baldacci? I don't know. Anyway, this is an Amos Decker. It's the first book with Amos Decker. I took David's masterclass and enjoyed it. He does a lot of research, so I decided to pick up one of his books. Amos Decker is an obese detective who's no longer a detective, who basically falls so far down he's homeless, and his family was killed, and he's pulled into a school shooting, and it all is connected somehow to his past. I had fun reading this book. It wasn't that I didn't like it, but it's unbelievable when it comes to characters and situations. Like, I don't enjoy those type of books where it's this detective who always is figuring stuff out, and everybody else, the FBI and every other cop, they're just fumbling around and it's like, how did you figure that out, Decker? And he has a mind that forgets nothing. He was hit on the football field when he was playing NFL for like very short stint in the NFL. And then when he came to, he has the ability to remember everything that ever happened to him, like a VHS tape or a DVD, and he could just play and pause and remember everything. So that helps him solve these crimes. The fact that he's obese, the fact that he has this memory thing, makes it more interesting than the typical detective novel or thriller. But I still feel like it falls flat to me because it's, again, I feel like these type of books, the James Patterson, the Dave Baldacci, feels like junk food. You're not really getting any meat on the bones. It's a good escape. I'll give it that. And it's better than Patterson. I think he was definitely better than James Patterson, but a fun escape, but not the type of book I would read over and over. Like, I know that they put out tons of books and people read them all, but I have a feeling if I read another David Baldacci book, it's going to be the same formula and I'll get bored of it fast. But you may feel differently. Let me know in the comments. Next up, Ernest Hemingway in Our Time. And this book originally came out in, I think, 1925. This is a collection of short stories that are loosely connected by a character called Nick Adams. Some of the stories don't involve Nick Adams, but a good chunk of them do. And I picked this up because Joyce Carol Oates, I'm taking her masterclass, and she suggests reading early Hemingway short stories to get better at your own writing. Brevity, brevity, brevity. He really is the master at short sentences and getting to the point. There's a new documentary by Ken Burns about Hemingway, which I started watching. It's very fascinating. This is not the type of fiction you read like Baldacci, like that kind of story arcs and all that. This is character studies. It's interesting to read literary fiction where it's not really a journey that you're on. You're just inside the head of the character and feeling what they're experiencing. So you're not reading this for like a beginning, middle, and end. You're reading this to be somewhere in time with that character. And he does a great job at doing that. Now, it is dated. There are some slang terms or situations that might feel very dated, but once you get past that, it's definitely something worth reading if you want to write. You don't have to read this if you're not into this type of thing. But I think if you want to be a writer, Hemingway is definitely someone you should check out to see how he can tell these tales in the briefest, most condensed sentences you can think of. And finally, this is called SOMNA, I believe it's pronounced. This is a graphic novel I picked up. This is issue 1, and beautiful, beautiful artwork. I'll see if I can get something that's not racy. As you can see here, this is a beautiful, big book. It's not the regular size of a comic book. This thing is pretty huge. Beautiful, full color comic. It's like a glossy front. You can see how it has that sort of gloss to it. This is about a woman during the witch trials who has a husband who is basically the trial. He's the one who's puts these witches on trial. They burn somebody. She's having these dreams, and it seems like she's having dreams, sexual dreams with the devil. Or a demon. I'm not sure yet. This is just issue 1. But I picked it up. This is the company that puts it out. Let's see if we can get that right there. Yeah, there you go. This is the company that puts it out. So I just recently got it. I thought I'd throw it in there. And this cover art is by Joelle Jones. It's not the original cover. I think the original cover is one of these or both of these. I don't know. So I'm gonna try to check out issue 2 and see if I enjoy the rest of it. If you like this content, then absolutely hit that subscribe button, hit the bell because I got more videos coming up, and that's all I got.